Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us for today's live. Thank you for all of your viewership, likes, comments, things like that on previous videos. Um, I'm going to just jump into today's video. We are talking about the topic of family and boundaries. The question I'm asking myself today is my family too close? Are we enmeshed? Do we have good boundaries? So I wanted to just take some time to talk about this. So, a little bit of background, my family and I would say we're pretty close. And most of my life, we have been close. And we had a family tragedy that happened when I was around 11, 12 years old. No, 12, 13 years old. My brother passed away. And what I found was that, sorry, I should have put a trauma warning there. Sorry about that. When I had family tragedy, what happened was that some families tend to grow apart, but in the midst of the tragedy going on in our lives, my family got extremely close, so close that we were extremely sensitive to one another's feelings about certain things. And we can pick up on each other's emotions. If somebody was sad, most of the time there was like a somber mood in the house. And if somebody was happy, it was a very infectious, contagious kind of thing. And so it wasn't until I left my house and I started to ask myself, my family's close. Are there places where we're too close? Are there places where we could be closer? What is the right and healthy amount of closeness to have? When my oldest sister, was the first to get married, and we met our brother in law for the first time. And I realized just how close my family was because all of a sudden we used to just hang out with each other all the time. And now we had this new person in our family who we love dearly, but we were now like imposing ourselves. I felt sometimes where we would come over, and then when they had babies, we would be over all the time. We wanted to see our sister, we wanted to see our nieces, and so we would be over all the time. And I had to start asking myself, is it healthy to be this close? And is this the right way to do it? I love my family. I love how close we are. But I never really stopped to think about boundaries and why it was important to be your own individual person while still being close. And I would say when I lived further away from my family in a whole different state, when they were in Texas and I was in New York, I felt like that was a time when I was able to really have super good boundaries with my family. Um, where it's strange because my parents are big prayer warrior people, and so whenever we had something going on, we could call them and they would immediately pray. But when I was living in a different place, in a different, slightly different time zone, there would be times where it was too late to call them, and I had to figure out life by myself, and I wasn't necessarily like able to just pick up the phone and trauma dump or just tell them all the things going on in my day. And so I had to really learn to stand on my own 2 feet and figure things out between myself and the Lord, or myself and the therapist, rather than immediately bringing it to my parents. And so I think that amount of growth was necessary because it taught me that yes, you have to have really close bonds with, or you have an opportunity to have close bonds with your family, but then you also have to have your own individual personhood. And I think it's been good for me to live further away because now I get to choose how close I am to with my family. And I've chosen to be pretty close because I find that they know me the best and they offer really great support. I'll be honest, I had quite a tough year. And in this tough year, what was really helpful for me was that I have people who know me and have known me through really good seasons and through not so good seasons. And so I am somebody who has the tendency to try to make it be all right, even when it's not. And if there's anyone who can make me cry, it's really my parents. And my parents, like literally just, I want to say, yes, 2 days ago, my mom, I don't know what it is about moms. My mom was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I kind of burst out crying. And my mom was like, "Okay, go talk to your dad." And then I went uh, into the study with my dad. Man, my dad is a gem among dads. My mom is a gem among moms. And because they've done marriage counseling for quite some time, they're really good at just listening and hearing you out and giving you perspective and helping you, I don't know, just understand how things are going. And so my issues was a relational issue, relationship issue. And my dad gave me the man's perspective, and my mom earlier had given me the woman's perspective. And so I think for me, in answering the question, is my family too close? There are times where I want to be a grown up and just be like, I'm a grown woman and I can figure things out by myself. But there's some times where I'm extremely grateful that I have living parents that I can go and talk to and pray with. And it's weird because now our relationship is different because yes, I am their child, but I'm their adult child. And so we have an adult friendship and relationship. And so I get to tell them what's going on in my life, and they pray for me, but I also get to pray for them. And I also get to encourage them and affirm them and advise them sometimes, which is so interesting. And so I think there are places where I have to push back on my parents, like something, hi, John, hello. Um, and so, yes, there are some times when I have to push back on my parents. Like, for example, this is so this is so wild, but my dad has come around to liking my hair, and he loves my hair now. He's not so sold on the idea of me getting a nose ring. I'm 33, by the way, and so my dad still has really strong opinions about certain things. Um, they still give feedback when I ask. That's the cool thing. My parents are really respectful in that they will ask. Um, when I ask, they give their opinion, but they don't like just give it unsolicited. Hi, John. It's good to see friends on here. Thank you for watching. Um, yeah, so it's good when I ask my parents for advice and they give it. And usually it's so funny because sometimes if there's something going on and I haven't asked my dad yet, he won't say anything. And then later on, I'll be like, Dad, what do you think? Tell me truly. And he'll be, oh, I'm glad you asked. Like for his birthday, we went for breakfast, and he just like gave me all of this great father advice that if I hadn't asked for it, he wouldn't have given it to me. And so I'm grateful that there's that kind of mutual respect, that he knows that if I need something, I'll go to him. And I know that I can trust him to be honest and give me, my dad has this weird ability to be really objective, but then also be really personal at the same time. And then he'll ask me what opinion that I want. Do I want the father perspective, or do I just want objectively speaking? And somehow he's able to do both of those things. I think that's what makes him a really good counselor. And my mom is so passionate, and man, my mom loves me. And so I know she's biased, but at times she can say, okay, here's the other perspective as well. And so my family's really close. And the thing I'm learning is the boundary and like not oversharing, because another thing with my parents or my family in general, they're so fiercely loyal. And my older sister is so protective. If I tell her something, she loves me so much, she's not going to forget, right? She's a child of God and she sees other people as children of God. But if I tell her something, or I tell my family something, they can't unknow the thing that I've told them. So oftentimes, if I'm having some kind of relational issue, I will take that to my therapist first and work it out. Because if I tell you the drama that happened in my relationship, I might forgive, but you might not forgive. And so now I have put an undue burden on you. So I'm learning with my family, if there's something that I'm still kind of navigating, I will talk to a therapist first, or one of my mentors, and kind of talk and pray it through with them. And then if I want to bring my family in, then I do that. So that's hard for me because I'm an open book pretty much when it comes to my family. And so I'm so used to sharing and sometimes oversharing that I have to now tell myself, like, okay, this is a thing that I do want them to know, but the timing of it is important. I don't keep secrets from my family. I'm not a very secretive person, but for the most part, I at least have one or two people who are confidants on any given issue. And so it's good to have built-in confidants in siblings or parents. I kind of assume that it's so weird. I kind of assume that my parents are telling each other what I tell them, but it's funny that I have individual relationships with each of them. And so I'm learning that because they're counselors, sometimes um, they have the obligation to keep something to themselves. So I can't always assume that if I told one parent one thing that they'll tell the other. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm telling you, can you please tell mom, or can you please tell dad, to kind of save me some breath. And so another thing for me when it comes to boundaries with your parents, you have to be willing to like say no and be okay with that. One of the big things for me was that I used to be like guilt tripped into going to places and doing things that I didn't actually want to do. And I was doing them so that I could appear like the dutiful daughter. But then I'd get to the place that I felt obligated to go, and then I would just feel a little bit of resentment because I didn't want to do it in the first place, or I didn't want to go there. And so I wouldn't have the best attitude. So rather than bringing that tension into my relationship with my family, I just started being upfront, like, hey, I don't actually want to do that, or I actually have other plans. Thank you for thinking of me. I won't be able to go, but maybe I could do something else another time. Or just simply saying, like, oh, sorry, I can't do that. I love you, but I can't do that. And so I think the resentment piece on the latter half was so bad that I was like, man, I don't want to resent my family. I don't want to feel bitter or burdened. So let me just be honest and say, like, I don't think I want to do that. And not feeling bad for not wanting to do that. And I remember there was a time when I think one of my siblings was like, well, I would do it for you. And I was like, but I didn't, you don't have to. You can say no if you want to. And so giving my siblings, giving my family permission to also say no to me gives us this free, I don't know, this time where we could just freely relate to each other. Like, I'm not obligating you to do anything, and you're not doing anything out of obligation to me. And just coming from this place of like gratitude, like, hey, you did this thing, and I'm grateful that you did it. Thank you so much. You're not beholden to me in any way. So I have this list of things you can do to set some good, healthy boundaries with your family. I think sometimes when I hear people talk about boundaries with their family, they can come from a very, like, I don't know, American centric way of boundary keeping. I'm Nigerian, and a lot of times, if you have immigrant parents or immigrant family members, it's hard to have those same kind of boundaries. You should still have them, but do them in a way that makes sense for you culturally and with your individual family. Um, Okay, first thing I'll say, how to have proper boundaries. Have some alone time. My goodness. Don't just be sitting at each other's face, looking at each other all day. Have some alone time. Find some hobbies, things that you want to do by yourself that don't necessarily include your family members. This includes married people. Sometimes married people can, for the love of the other person, take on the other person's hobbies and just be like, oh, I just want to be with them, so I'll do what they want to do all the time. But it's not actually something that they want to do. And over time, they realize that they're not doing anything that they enjoy, and they're picking up all of their partner's habits or fun things, which is nice for support. But at the end of the day, you should have things that you enjoy as well. So make sure you're your own unique person outside of your family. It's really, really important. That sense of autonomy gives you identity. So it's really important that you don't get like lost in the sauce of your family. Um, Second thing, like, talk to your family about the things that work and don't work for you. And so I think sometimes we have lived with each other so long in families that we just kind of assume that certain things are okay. But then you start to get clues that a person might be bothered. Like, for example, my brother in law the other day said something like, yeah, man, I don't like when people use the dishwasher for storage. It was like, I thought everyone did that. It's not my favorite thing in the world either, but I thought everyone did that. And so when I go to their house, I do that. I use the dishwasher for storing clean dishes. And so I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing." And so now that I know, I can't unknow. And so I can help by just doing something that that person likes. It's not a big deal. It's no skin off my nose, but the more and more you talk about the things that work and don't work for you, your family members know you a little bit more. They have a better understanding of your quirks and your likes and dislikes. We can't assume that they're mind readers or that they've observed us enough to know all of these things about us. Um, and so, yeah, another one is don't be afraid to say no and set limits. This is big, especially when you start having children. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to be dragged back and forth to do stuff that you don't want to do. I think something it's so funny. My sister, when she turned 30, she was like, oh, I'm 30 now. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Okay. And so I kind of adopted that mindset when I turned 30, like, no, I don't want to do that. And I don't want anyone to make me feel bad for that. It's a thing that I don't want to do. I'm not so strict that I'm always saying no all the time, but I say no when I really don't have the capacity. I have sometimes the ability to just push past my own like exhaustion or comfort to do something to benefit other people. But then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I have nothing left to give for myself or the people I love. So I'm trying to learn to say no when I really don't want to do something, because if I really don't want to do it, it's usually my body telling me like, hey, maybe you're running on fumes, or hey, maybe you need some alone time. So when I feel a no in my spirit, I try to honor the no and just say no. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Man, I can be such a self-sufficient person, and asking for help sometimes is the last thing that I want to do. And I think it's really important to be like, okay, this is a thing that maybe I could do by myself, but maybe it would go faster if I got some help. So I've started sharing my plans with my family, say like, hey, I'm working on this project. Could you help me? Or if it's something that is also something that they're working towards, you just partner up and say, hey, can we do this thing together? Right. So I think asking for help, or another big thing for me is like not lying when you need help. I think this little white lie, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. That's a lie if you're not well. And so I've tried to not lie to myself or my family. If they're like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, nope, I'm not. And then sometimes there's that awkward helplessness, like, how am I supposed to help? You don't have to do anything, but I just want you to know that I'm not okay. And I'm working on it, but I don't want to lie to you and say that I am when I'm really not. So another one is establishing healthy communication, talking openly and honestly about your feelings, your needs, your expectations. Man, back to the thing about your family not being mind readers. Oftentimes, they don't know what's going on in your mind. You have to actually speak it. And so sometimes it's embarrassing, but I have to say things like, hey, that thing actually really hurt my feelings. I know it was true, but I felt like you could have said it in a kinder way. Or like, when you say things like that, it kind of hurts my feelings. Or I'm not sure why you did that, but I was expecting something else and I was a little disappointed. Those kind of things are kind of uncomfortable to say at times, but sometimes they need to be said because people file away like, oh, that kind of thing doesn't work, or that's disappointing, or I could love this person better in this way because they're showing me how they'd like to be loved. Another one is along that same vein, addressing conflicts quickly. Oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I used to really not allow people to be mad at me for a long time, which is probably not healthy. But if someone was upset at me, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you mad?" And they'd be like, "Yes, I'm mad. That thing you did was really messed up." And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. How long do you think you'll be mad for? Like 5 minutes, or like a day, or a week?" And then they'd be so annoyed, like, "A week? Why would I be mad for a week?" Like, no, I just want to know, like, I could leave you alone and come back when you think you'll be not mad anymore. And they used to be get so annoyed. But for me, if there's something uncomfortable, I want to like address it quickly and move on. And so another thing I'm noticing is that if I halfway address a thing, I'm going to come back to it anyway. So if we had a blow up argument and I'm like, okay, sorry, I yelled, but there's like a deeper reason that I got mad or you got mad at me. I want to resolve the deeper reason. At the same time, there's a lot of caveats here. At the same time, I want to also be mindful of people's processing time. I have some family members who process in the moment and they're processing out loud and they're talking and you're hearing their thoughts in real time. There are other family members that I have that need to talk, like think to themselves, like, how did that make me feel? Even want to write a letter that would outline how they felt because they feel calmer in written dialogue. And that is just as meaningful as well. It's helpful information, and we all need to honor people's different um, processing types and speeds as well. Um, and then also taking care of your own needs. Man, it's back to that oxygen mask thing. If you don't have enough to give for yourself, you definitely don't have enough to give to other people. And so many times in families, we think we get some kind of award if we're being so self sacrificing and we're helping other people, but we're neglecting ourselves. There's no award for that. And in fact, it's that resentment that builds up, but it's also that you find yourself like running on fumes. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything left to give to myself, let alone my family. I remember I was in a season one time where I was serving a lot with church. And I remember there was one particular service that was so long into the evening, and I'm like driving home like close to midnight, crying because I was like, oh my goodness, all I needed to do was say no. All I needed to do was say no, and I didn't say no, and I didn't show up for myself. I didn't stand up for myself, and now I'm running on fumes. I have nothing to give to myself. I have nothing to give to my friends and family, and so it shouldn't ever get to that point. It should get to the point where I wish we were like cars. When your engine's warning light goes off and it's like you're about to be running out of gas. I wish our bodies would do that, but sometimes our bodies give us little warnings like irritation or lack of sleep, or you're not eating well enough, or you're eating poorly. Sometimes your body's trying to tell you that you're not having enough boundaries in other parts of your life. So, all in all, I'm extremely grateful for the close family that I have. It is by the grace of God that we're so close. We are not perfect by any means, but every day the Lord is helping us to love each other better and to show up for each other in a way that is love for the other person. It's weird. You have your own love language, but so does your family. And so you have to speak love in the way that they would hear it. And it's really easy to love people the way you want to be loved and not realize that they might not be receiving it in the same way that you're giving it. Um, and so having those conversations and getting to know your family at different stages. My sister is one of my older sister and my younger sister, some of my closest friends. And so for me, being so close to my sister when she got married and when she became a mom, our relationship changed. We're still super close, but now her priorities are different. And so my love for her, my support for her must evolve as her life evolves as well. The way I love my brother is different now in this stage of his life as well. My parents, same thing, my nieces, right? And so I think we have to be willing to evolve with our family, even when we're in close proximity geographically, or we go off in different places. I'm listening to one of my sisters, who is, oh man, she's doing such great work, doing such great work. And so she's living in New York. And there was a time when she started saying to us, like, hey, I need you to call me more. Hey, I would love you to speak to me more softly. And I was like, oh, okay. If a person tells you how they want to be loved, don't be defensive about it. Take it as them really helping you be better at loving them. So anyway, so to answer my question, is my family too close? I wouldn't say so. I don't think we're too close, but I think we could all benefit from having really good boundaries so that there is no obligation that leads to resentment. I pray that even if you don't have a family that you came from that was super close, I pray that you're able to cultivate in your own family that you create that level of closeness and intimacy and knowing each other well and loving each other well. That's something that even if we didn't come from loving backgrounds, we have a say moving forward in how we create our families. Anyway, y'all, that's my topic for today. Thank you for sticking around. I will see you on the next one. Bye. Take care.